What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of The Bandwagon Fan. This is the show where we talk about all things pop culture and what we're into. I'm AJ.
I'm Josh. Did you know that back in the day,
Yeah.
you know, the Addams Family, the movie from 91?
Yeah.
Do you know Tim Burton was asked to work on that?
No, and I'll tell you why. I before this came out, I never really cared about the Addams Family. Like,
Really? Okay.
I knew very the basics. Like,
You never watched the show?
no,
Dude.
man, the show wasn't for me. It was like, I remember when I was a kid. And when it was on TV, I used to just like groan at the intro, and I'd just like scramble for finding the remote. It was just never for me. As a kid, especially growing up, like I didn't appreciate like dark humor. You know what I mean?
Okay,
like
okay.
I think a lot of it is just like I didn't get it. Like I was very much like animation kid, so like I watched the animated shows.
Samurai Jack.
Oh my god! By the way, I'm so sad that we didn't do this podcast when the revival arc came back, because the revival arc is one of the most beautiful things I think ever put to screen. It is incredible.
If you're listening and you want to hear us talk about it, let us know.
My god, I love that last arc they did for Samurai Jack to bring it all together. It's incredible. But yeah, shows like Samurai Jack, you know, everything on Cartoon Network, some things on Nickelodeon, that kind of thing. So shows like this, like that were more like adult, like I shouldn't say adult, but I think the humor is requires a level of maturity that to this day I still don't have. So
it was like 1964, I think, was when it started. So like
when the OG show started.
There's that too. Like I'm sure you're like, what is this?
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. My only favorite reference for the Addams Family was the movie, because that was, you know, someone playing on TV back in, like, you know, in the early 90s, whatever. I think Ralph Julia was in it. Is that correct?
That's a good question that I do not have the answer to.
I think so.
Jamie,
yeah.
can you pull it up for us?
Yeah, with the OG cast. Hold on, let me see if I can just.
Fun fact: I've never seen the 91 movie.
Yeah, Raul Julia, Christina Ricci. That's why I'm bringing this up, because Christina Ricci is also in this one as well.
That's the only thing I know about that movie.
Yeah.
And I've seen like
Christopher Lloyd's Uncle Fester. You know what I mean?
I recently watched the Thanksgiving play scene
from the movie.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen.
That's the thing. The movie, like, again, every time I would see it on TV, I would just change the channel. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's crazy.
Culturally, like, I know so little about the Addams Family. I just know it's a bunch of so like, before we like get too deep into it, like, I didn't know that like they had like powers. Like, I don't know if that's canon. Like I didn't know. So like when the show first started, I was like, "What's happening?" I was very confused. I was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah. Well, Tim Burton was asked to work on it, and like when you think of the Addams Family aesthetic, you're like, "Yeah, that tracks. That makes sense." Mm-hmm. But it's like the most 90s thing ever. He turned it down because he was working on the Batman movies.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did the Batman movies with oh boy,
was it Keaton?
No, I don't think it was Keaton. Was it? Or was George Clooney? Was it Clooney?
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was Clooney.
Man, look at that. That's two references
that we don't know. Jamie, get on this, man.
Okay, it looks like. Oh, you were right. Michael Keaton it was Michael Keaton's Batman. That was the one with Jack Nicholson as the Joker. You know, that one with the creepy looking Jack Nicholson. Billy D. Williams was Two-Face. I'm trying to think who else was in that movie. Jeez. I think Kim Basinger was in it. Was she Catwoman?
No, that was Michelle Pfeiffer.
That was Michelle Pfeiffer? Okay. So I don't even remember what role she was in then. But the point is, he made a very different Batman movie than we got before and afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of interesting. I kind of would have preferred maybe if he did an Addams Family movie though.
Really? Okay. I enjoy his Batman movies for what they are. I mean, they're very theatrical, but I enjoy them. They're better than the Who did like the one with Jim Carrey?
I'm 99% sure that's the one with George Clooney.
It is.
Yeah, it is, right? And Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so that was the one with oh my god, yeah, those were bad. Those are really bad. I can't remember the actor that played Robin in those movies, but
don't remember either.
Yeah. So Tim Burton has like a very, very storied past as a director. I'm going to tell you another nugget of AJ lore. Not a huge Tim Burton fan.
Oh, tell us why. I can think of a few reasons why.
I mean, I think the funniest one is just like he doesn't really have black people in his movies. Him and Wes Anderson, man, I don't know. They must go their whole lives without ever meeting a black person. But that's another conversation for another day. But
well, it's relevant though. It's relevant.
I maybe it is the only Tim Burton movie, and I don't know if he directed it, so I don't know. I think he produced it, but the only Tim Burton movie that I enjoy is A Nightmare Before Christmas, and I don't think he directed that. I think he just had a hand in. I don't know. I don't remember. Man, that's 3 lookups in a day.
It's got his aesthetic, and like I'm pretty sure like they say Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, I don't remember if he did direct it. Yeah, okay. So it says story by, but it was directed by Henry Selick. I know he had.
Did not know that.
Yeah, okay. Okay. It's been a long time. So if anyone listening, they remember, please correct me because I can't look it up fast enough. But I think he wrote the story. I think it's his story. I think he wrote it. Okay. So
I mean, again, it's his aesthetic.
Yeah, and it's his aesthetic. I like it a lot, but that's the only one I like. I don't really like his other work. I'm sorry.
Scissorhands?
Not for me.
What? Okay.
Not for me. Wow. Not for me. It's not, and it's one of those things where it's like I can recognize that, like, oh, this is cool for someone who enjoys it, but it's just not. Like, I'm trying to think of some of his other, like, most notable movies. I know there was Beetlejuice.
Did you do Sweeney Todd?
Is it Catherine O'Hara? Is that her name? The mom from Home Alone. I think that's her name. She's in Beetlejuice, and she's great in that movie. She does a really, really good job as the mother. Yeah, Catherine O'Hara. Yeah, she's in Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is okay. You know, I didn't really like The Corpse Bride. I did not like that Alice in Wonderland movie, the Charlie the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, same.
I've just a lot of his movies. I've just never. Big Fish. I remember we had to like watch it like in school one time. I was like, "Yo, what is this?"
Did you see Sweeney Todd?
Yeah. Not for me, man. Sweeney,
wow, that's so interesting.
For the longest time, I confused Sweeney Todd with Edward Scissorhands, by the way. I thought they were the same. I thought it was the same plot for the longest time. I don't know. I just never. He made this one movie. Did he direct Mars Attacks? I remember as a kid that movie used to freak me out. I don't know if he directed or he's part of it. I'm pretty sure he's like. I'm pretty sure he has his hand in that movie. I don't know. Yeah, he directed Mars Attacks. So like that as a movie, as a kid, that freaked me out. I was not into that. Like I never really watched a Tim Burton directed movie and been like, yeah, this was for me.
Well, things are about to get very interesting then because folks, we're here to talk about the Wednesday show on Netflix.
Yeah, Wednesday show on Netflix. What were your thoughts when this came out? Like, what did you think?
I was so skeptical. I was like, this is going to be trash. Like, they're going to cancel it after 3 episodes. I don't care about this. This is dumb. Why is it a show about her? I was such a hater, dude. And then
you're not wrong.
And then I started hearing things. I was like, oh, like people are saying it's pretty good. And then the school I work at, there was a student watching it in class during class. I was like, what are you watching? Like Wednesday. I was like, is it good? He goes, yeah, it's really good. I'm like, okay. So I was like, all right, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to echo what you said. I had the same feeling. I was like, you know, we live in this era where everything's rehashed. So most of it is bad. Some of it's okay. Very few of it is good. And I think this surprised me. I think I can at least say that our preamble here for Tim Burton's, body of work, I think shows that, hey, there's a first time for everything. Let's jump into Netflix's Wednesday. This came out last year, last November. One of the other things that like made me a little hesitant to watch this is that I felt like this should have came out in October.
That would have made more sense.
I don't know why they waited until like, what was it, Christmas or Thanksgiving week? I think this came out, if I remember correctly, because I remember thinking in my head like, that's really weird that this is coming out in November and not Halloween.
Yeah.
But the plot of the show is surprisingly pretty simple. Wednesday, played by Jenna Ortega, she's kicked out of her public school because and I didn't quite get this. Did she kill those kids?
She tries to.
Okay.
Okay. So they make reference to one of the main one.
Yeah.
He loses a testicle.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I might have just spaced out because at this point I don't think I was sold on the show. But I thought they died. So first of all, I was like, why isn't she going to jail?
Yeah.
But she puts piranhas in the pool, and because she's defending her brother, and the piranhas attack I think it's the water polo team.
Yeah, because they're bullying Pugsley.
They're bullying Pugsley. And I guess this is like the start of us watching her develop her psychic powers. Now you're gonna have to help me out if you know anything more than I do. Like, does she historically have psychic powers? Is that?
I have no idea.
Okay,
so that was new to me. I was like, okay, that's where we're going with this.
I'm fine with it. I was just curious if that was already established. And off the rip, we're introduced to Wednesday's character. She's very much a lone wolf, very much to herself, and but she also has a sense of she has a moral compass, right? Like she's very much like, my brother is being bullied and he's not strong enough right now to defend himself. So I have to do something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I thought that the whole first episode really did a really good job of establishing a lot of the characters we'd see throughout the rest of the show. We got to see Morticia, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones. And
pretty sure she was like my first crush as like a young child growing up.
As a young bro, yeah.
Luis Guzman was Gomez.
Gomez, yeah. Luis Guzman was Gomez, and we see their characters, and they're very much like polar opposites to Wednesday's character. Wednesday's character, I think one thing that they tried to keep pretty close to the original source material that at least I could remember is that she's very like melancholy. Like that's the thing. Like she's very one note. She doesn't find things funny. She doesn't smile per se. And, her parents are the exact opposite. And so it's very interesting to see that play out. I don't know if that's ever part of the original show, but I think it was a good, contrast because it's kind of like, oh, she's an angsty teenager. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like the up 10th, like she's like very dry, very sarcastic. It's like an interesting combination of characteristics where she's like very like withdrawn, but like also very confident in herself. So like it's something you don't really see very often. You expect someone withdrawn to be like depressed,
to be
and
very
like,
to themselves, very reserved. Yeah,
no, she's out there. She's like, I'm doing me.
And so as a punishment, she's sent to the school that her mother went to. And her father, yes. And for lack of a better description, it's kind of like Hogwarts. Question mark?
It's basically
it's Hogwarts Hogwarts / like Professor Xavier's school for the gifted. Like it's a little bit of both. Where it's this. What's the name of the academy? Is it Nevermore? After Edgar Allan Poe's. Okay. So like it's kind of like whimsical like that. And we meet our first character when she gets there, Enid. Enid is the exact opposite of Wednesday. She's bubbly. She is friendly. She's colorful. She literally, I don't think she ever didn't wear rainbow themed clothing the whole show. Like she's like very bright.
And her room is like all bright and colorful.
Her room is like all bright. I mean, everything. Yeah, her room is like super bright and colorful. And, essentially that's the start of their friendship, tell me what you thought about this character, because that first episode we meet a lot of the characters that we meet throughout the show. We meet Bianca. Bianca's a siren, and she's kind of like Wednesday's I guess you could say like rival, like her Malfoy,
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of, if I'm going with the Harry
like
Potter
her foil.
thing. Yeah, her foil. We meet Xavier. Xavier is the love interest. You know, he's the brooding, emotional teenager, but he's very smart and very talented. We have Hunter, in this town, in this universe, I should say, it's acknowledged that there are these werewolves and sirens and people with telekinesis powers and stuff like that. And so Tyler is a normal kid that lives in town. His dad's the sheriff. Wednesday meets him. There's another character.
Wait, Hunter? I thought it was Tyler.
Excuse me. I said Tyler. His real name's Hunter. I apologize. I forgot about that. His real name's Tyler.
Okay. I was like, wait. I was like, there's a Hunter in this show?
No. His real name is Hunter Duhan, I think.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah, his real name is Hunter Duhan. Yeah, but in the show, his name is Tyler. And I can't remember was it Eugene? Is that
Eugene,
the beekeeper kid?
Yeah,
my favorite character. Yeah, my favorite character. Yeah, he was great. Yeah, he was great. The beekeeper Eugene. So we meet all these characters. What do you think about all these friends that Wednesday begrudgingly makes in this school?
Well, and to add on to that, there's one other character that gets kind of thrust into the situation that it kind of is like one of my favorites, Thing.
Yes. I can't believe I forgot about Thing.
Thing is the MVP of the show.
Thing is the MVP. He literally out there saving lives.
Yeah.
He definitely deserves recognition because his character was great too.
Played by Victor Doro Bantu, who is, I believe he's Romanian. And I just want to throw this out there, like performance actors get underappreciated. And this guy kills it. Like without him, would have been such a different show.
Would have been much more boring.
but yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, like this cast of characters, friends, enemies, potential love interests, is like very teenage, like Riverdale, like teenager show tropey.
Mm-hmm.
But they make it work. And like it's just like a good collection of different personalities to make the show interesting and to kind of play off of Wednesday's personality and the things that she does. It's a good like contrast to who she is and gives her room to, as the show progresses, like she develops as a character. So and each of these characters kind of plays a part in that.
Yeah, they play a part in it. Like the overarching kind of theme is that there are obviously things that Wednesday needs to work through. We meet Principal Weems, played by Gwendolyn Christie. She plays Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones. And she's basically like, hey, you're going to be here. It's going to be great, but we also need to probably get you some therapy. And these were parts of the show that I thought were funny because I think unknowing to Wednesday, the therapy is working. Like whether she wants to whether she wants to acknowledge it or not, like it's forcing her to ask questions about herself. You know, the very first episode, I think, if I remember correctly, like she's always trying to run away. You know what I mean? She's always trying to run away because that's her fight or flight. And throughout the show, we watch that flight turn to fight. You know what I mean? And so through her therapy, she's dealing with this I guess you could say, I don't know what you'd call it other than like just emotional trauma that we don't really understand. And at the same time, like juxtaposed to her just trying to fit in this school, there is a murder mystery going on. There is a student by name of Rowan, right? I think that's his name.
Yeah, Rowan.
Who kind of tells Wednesday like, and can you help me fill in like what were his powers? Could he see the future as well, or I didn't understand what his powers were.
I think he had telekinesis.
Was it telekinesis?
And then he I believe he found just proof, like a book.
Okay. I didn't know if he made that himself. Okay, I couldn't remember if he made that himself, but he basically informs Wednesday that like, hey, whatever is about to happen at this school, you're going to be at the center of it. You're going to be the reason, the catalyst for it. And so he tries to kill her because it's not good. So he tries to kill her because he's like, in his mind, he's like, I'm trying to save the day. And before he can even do it, they get, and this is where the show, this is at the end, I think all this was at the end of the first episode.
It was, yeah.
And there was like a monster that attacks him and mutilates him almost. And I'm like, what in the world is happening? Like, this is this is different. You know what I mean? And it set the tone for the rest of the show as, Wednesday is trying to find out, like, well, who is this monster? And how does that monster relate to Jericho? Right. There's also like, this part of the show I didn't really love too much, but there was like this like underlying, I guess you can say, bias from the sheriff, who was Tyler's dad. I don't remember the sheriff's name, so I'll just call him Sheriff Galpin. But like he has this bias because Gomez, he remembers that. And the other thing about the show, by the way, the timelines don't quite match up. By the way, I don't know if you caught that, but the timelines do not make any sense because Tyler's dad is probably no older than Gomez, but somehow was a sheriff at this time. Like it doesn't make a ton of sense. But anyways,
well, he wasn't the sheriff. The mayor was the sheriff.
No, the mayor was a sheriff, but wasn't he an officer or was he a student at that time? That's the part. That's the other part that I'm like, I don't know if they ever jump into too deep.
Yeah,
because he seems very invested in uncovering this murder that happened 20 years ago, or whatever. So they, there's a couple murder mysteries in there, and essentially they, Wednesday is convinced that the murderer is in the school, and she's, I don't know. I felt like this part of the show, she's trying to exonerate herself, or at least tell herself that she's not the cause of a lot of people's problems. So that I think that's the real big driver of why she's trying to put this mystery together. We get this really cool scene, I think in the 4th episode, where she is trying to draw out the killer, and she orchestrates this whole thing at the dance of their school. And it's like, it plays right out of a scene from like Carrie, where she I guess she uses the normal kids to like put paint. Was it paint that they put in the pipes?
I don't even remember what it was now, but yeah,
because she made a comment. She made a joke basically saying like, I couldn't afford real blood or something like that. Yeah, she made a comment.
They were retaliating against her,
correct?
Because earlier she had burned down the statue of the town's founder,
yes,
Crackstone or whatever. Who so there's the normies, normal people, and then there's the outsiders. I think that's what they call them. And like this guy was not about that life, so he kind of like persecuted them and whatnot.
Yeah, she
burned his statue down during a ceremony.
Burned his statue down, yeah. And we should also probably explain too that like throughout this part of the show, she's like developing her psychic powers. I don't think the show did a great job of explaining what those powers are too much.
She can she can
see into the future. Ambiguous. Yeah, she can see into the past, not the future. I'm sorry. She can see into the past, and there's not real like it's kind of like ex machina. Like it happens when she needs to see it. So I don't know if that's them trying to say like, the power is activated when you need it or something. But then she can also like, I don't know. Is she a telepath? I guess that's the best way to describe it. Like it's hard to like describe what her powers are because the show never really goes too deep into it. But she's got psychic powers.
She's got Jedi powers.
Yeah, she's got Jedi powers. So it fits the narrative of the show. But anyways,
going back to the dance though, like that dance is iconic now. Like it's all over like TikTok and.
Is it really?
Dude, oh yeah, dude.
Oh wow! I mean, it was cool. It was a good scene.
Jenna Ortega like choreographed it herself. She like took stuff from like watching emo concerts and then also like some stuff from the old Addams Family TV show and like incorporated it together.
Really incorporated it, yeah. And I think at the end of this episode, Eugene gets like thrashed, like thrown by that monster, and Wednesday feels really guilty because she was using people as bait to draw out this monster, and Eugene got caught up in the crossfire.
He gets messed up. Like, I thought he was dead.
I thought he died too.
I was very sad because I liked him.
I thought he died, but then this is Eugene's kind of like the catalyst for Wednesday realizing that she can't do everything by herself. You know what I mean? Because she starts to, she brings Eugene honey, which is really sweet, and we see a kinder side because she tells people all the time, "I don't need anybody. I'm very gruff. I think she made a joke at one point. She's like, I don't bury hatchets, I sharpen them. Something funny like that. Like something goofy like that. But like, she makes it a point that she doesn't need anybody. And throughout her trying to, exonerate herself, exonerate her family, on Parents' Day, we get a little bit of insight as to what really went down during those murders X amount of years ago, or the murder that happened X amount of years ago. The coroner, I think he is, committed suicide.
Yeah, because he covered up. There was a cover up. Basically, yes. Gomez was accused of murdering another student.
Yes.
And yeah, the coroner was part of the cover up. The mayor was part of it, which, I mean, we find out a little bit later.
We find out later. And originally there wasn't enough evidence to arrest Gomez. So that's why he was never tried for this quote unquote murder.
But wait, there's more. The plot thickens because it wasn't Gomez. It was Morticia.
Yep.
And like actually that whole the sequence, like that sword fight sequence, the way they kept replaying it, and you saw more and more. That was cool.
That was
because you're like slowly uncovering like what happened, and it turns out this guy was stalking Morticia, and it got to the point where like it became physical violence, and so Gomez and this kid are fighting. His name's Garrett, and Morticia stabs him on accident, but turns out Garrett actually poisoned himself. He had a poison that he was going to use to kill
poison in his vest.
All the people at the school. Yeah. So then the mayor admits to it, and then Gomez gets released from jail.
Well, before we get that far, I did like this scene because I think it gave us a lot of insight as who Gomez is as a character and who Morticia is. Morticia was the, like the popular girl, I guess you could say, in her school. And Gomez was just absolutely gobsmacked, but he was also very brave. You know what I mean? He was very brave to stand up for her. And I thought that was cool. I thought they showed it. It could have been very cheesy the way they showed that, but I thought they did that really cool. But yes, the other twist, if you want to throw it out there.
Yeah. So after Garrett's death, his family kind of just falls apart, like really, really, really badly. Like they all like died, commit suicide or whatever, go crazy. So they thought the family was wiped out. Turns out his sister might still be alive.
Yeah.
And so if she's alive, like she's probably out to get everybody who she might blame for her brother's death.
So fast forward, Uncle Fester shows up to help Wednesday kind of put this together, and he gives Wednesday a pretty big clue as to what's going on. That the monster is a Hyde. A Hyde meaning, Dr. Jekyll and Hyde. I believe I don't know the lore of the original story, but I think was he trying to cure himself or something or something or other, and use an experiment on him to.
I've read the book. I don't remember, but basically, he like takes a serum and turns himself into this thing that has no morals and is strong and whatever.
Right. So she thinks that because throughout the show, Xavier is constantly stalking her, and she's convinced that someone is actively trying to sabotage her finding the truth of who this monster that's killing people is, and she thinks it's Xavier. Like we mentioned before, is the pretty boy artist. Again, I can't remember. Does he have powers?
Yeah, he can make his like art come to life, like temporarily.
That's a dumb.
If you remember, like he like draws like a spider and like it like comes out of the paper.
Oh yes. Yeah. Okay. So he's a transmorph. I don't know what you would call that. Transmorpher. I don't know what you would call that. I'm sure there's a word.
I'm sure there is. Yeah.
You Josh being our resident D&D champion, I thought you would have a term for it already, but
touche.
Yeah. But anyways, Thing is almost killed by Thing is almost killed, but then Dr. Kinbot is unfortunately killed by the monster, correct? And
which kind of throws Wednesday's whole investigation for a loop because she thought Kinbot, because the Hyde needs a master, right? In this version of the lore, and so she thought Kinbot was the master. Nope, she gets murked, and we do find out who the Hyde is though, because Wednesday goes for a smooch with pretty boy Tyler,
the normie kid Tyler,
the normie barista. And surprise, Tyler's hide.
Now, I have to admit, I called it from like the very first minute of the show. I was not the minute, but like when we see Tyler at the coffee shop in the beginning, I was like, that kid's the monster. And then when they were at the fair at the end of the first episode, and I'm like, that kid is 100% the monster. 100% the monster. I was like, for sure he's the monster.
He was just like way too good to be true.
Yeah, I was like, this kid's the monster. I was like, there's no way. So then we get like the culminating episode. Wednesday and the classmates, like they kidnap Tyler, but he kind of just plays it off like he plays off dumb, and because like when Wednesday has that vision, like he kind of knows like, okay, the jig is up, whatever. But to everyone else, he plays dumb. So Eugene, the beekeeper kid, puts it together that Mrs. Thornhill is that played by Christina Ricci, who I don't know if we brought up before, but played by Christina Ricci, has to be involved. The details of why honestly aren't super important. Wednesday goes and tries to tell Principal Weems that like, hey, I think I know who actually did it this time. And before they can really do anything about it, fortunately, Principal Weems also dies, which I was sad about. I was more sad about her dying than Dr. Kinbot dying.
100%. Because like it came out of nowhere.
Like, and I kept being like, is she gonna? Well, because did they say what her powers are?
She's a shapeshifter.
So I thought she was gonna like shapeshift into like something else, but no, she just died. So,
gotcha.
So I was like, oh, so she's just gone. So I was like, that's a little unfortunate. But yeah, we find out that, and this is for me, this is when the show got a little like, okay, this is a little silly. But Thornhill is a Crackstone descendant, the Pilgrim dude from like way earlier in the season who like persecuted Wednesday's relative. Like great relative,
yeah,
like
Goody Adams.
Goody Adams, yeah.
Also played by Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega, yeah. And so she like resurrects like Pilgrim Hitler, and he's like a zombie like wizard, which also super hypocritical. Hypocritical of the dude, right? Come back to life as a wizard, and it's like I have to kill all of you. Like, why? That doesn't make a lot of sense. You're one of us
now, dude. You're a zombie wizard.
I told you this last episode, I literally sat there going, okay. But yes, a lot of things happen, including Wednesday getting impaled, which this is when I said, okay, let's come down to earth. What are her powers? What can she do? Because Goody Adams then does some resurrection spell. She casts resurrection and basically revives her, which I was like, whoa. Has this been established? And at first I'm like, am I having a stroke? Like, did I miss critical parts of other episodes when this was set up? I was like, I don't know what's happening.
It's like you said, I was like, well, this would be convenient, so she can do that now.
Very much ex machina. Yeah. But then we get some other cool moments in the scene, in this episode, I should say, like Enid finally, Enid's thing is like she can't turn into a werewolf. And throughout the show, like the Parents' Day episode, her mother is giving her a lot of grief, and she feels very self-conscious about not being able to turn to a werewolf because she feels left behind. She's well beyond the age that she should have been a werewolf. And we kind of learn like some tidbits of like, like her cousin, I guess, also never couldn't turn to a werewolf and had to go to a conversion camp, which was pretty funny. So, we just learned other tidbits about that. And, she finally she goes werewolf to help out Wednesday. To fight Tyler. Yeah. And, I would have liked, like, I get it. They got a budget, so you can't go crazy with the CGI of a werewolf fighting a Hyde, but conceptually, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So I would have liked to see a little bit more of that. Xavier. Oh, I felt like the most awkward part of the show was, Wednesday gets Xavier basically thrown in like magic jail, which don't ask. But he gets him thrown in jail. Was it regular jail or magic jail? It was regular jail.
It was regular jail. Right? Okay. She goes to visit him.
Because in my mind, I'm like, why doesn't he just break out? Like, why doesn't he just draw something and just peace? But whatever. Yeah. Anyways, he gets put in jail, and it's Wednesday's fault because Wednesday accused him. And so, after she gets him out, and he's still kind of bitter about it, but ends up saving her later. And then in my mind, I'm kind of just like, okay, how do you go past that as a friendship? Like, you know,
I was thinking the same thing.
You were basically going to be put on like the equivalent of like death row for these murders that you committed, and she turned you in with no hesitation. But I guess we're just gonna look past that. Kind of weird, but unimportant to the rest of the story. Wednesday defeats Tyler. Tyler doesn't die; he just gets like incapacitated. And Crackstone, he goes down. Thornhill ran away. Correct. She didn't die.
No,
right?
The bees.
The bee, but we don't see her die, right? They just sting her.
No. Yeah.
They just sting her to oblivion. So I don't think she's dead personally, but whatever. And that would have been awkward because just in case someone missed it, like Christina Richie.
Was it Richie played Wednesday in the 1991 film.
Yeah,
in case someone missed that.
So I don't think they killed her. I think she'll be back in some other form. But yeah, Wednesday learns the power of friendship, and the real treasure was the friends we made along the way. As she finally hugs Enid, because in the beginning of the show, she's like, I don't hug, I don't whatever. Yeah. So yeah, what were your thoughts about season 1 of Wednesday?
I love the dark humor. Like that's my kind of humor. So like every time they would make a joke like that, where most people would be like, ugh, I was just like dying of laughing. Like one day and I watched it together. And so, yeah, like I laughed a lot during the show. Jenna Ortega, I thought she killed it as Wednesday, made the character her own while paying homage to like what it was before. I didn't know this before. Wendy pointed this out. Someone on TikTok or Instagram or something mentioned that she never blinks when she's on camera.
Oh.
And then when we were watching future, like for the rest of the show, you don't really see her blink ever. So just like little things like that. Like she really poured into the character. Oh, the show itself does a great job of exploring like the angst and alienation of being a teenager. Especially if you're not like quote unquote normal. Like everyone understands what it's like to be a teenager. Yeah. But I think there are some people who like kind of like, oh, like I was like the loser, the weirdo when I was like in junior high school or whatever. And so this kind of explores that in like a more fun, empowering, I don't know, that's a weird way to say it, kind of a way where it's like, oh, we got powers, we're cool. Acting was pretty solid. Especially considering like I was like, is this like what Riverdale is like?
No, is Riverdale is just straight cheesy. But
like, that's what I was expecting. And so like going into it and like what we got, I was like, this is solid. Yeah. Again, like towards the end, like it kind of got a little weird. But overall, like I enjoyed it. I'm on board for future seasons of this. I'm on the bandwagon. If you haven't watched it and you listened, go watch it.
Yeah, I overall I liked it. I told my wife after we watched it, I was like, this is probably the first Tim Burton thing that I actually enjoyed for the most part. I think Jenna Ortega did a really incredible job as Wednesday because she really embodied the character. I have a friend who is a huge Addams Family fan, and she said, it's different than the OG one, but at the same time, it's made for a different generation, and I respect that they know the tone, right? They know who they're making this for. I don't really think they were trying to appease to old school Addams Family fans, because if they did, everyone would have been in the show more. You know what I mean? So I think they did a good job of putting a fresh spin on a dusty IP. I do think if I have to nitpick, I do think some of like the dialogue can be a little cringe. Like sometimes the dialogue doesn't go anywhere, and it feels like they're just trying to pad out a 40-minute runtime. And I think of like a lot. There was a lot of scenes with like conversations with like some of the normie kids, or like Bianca's character, who I felt like they could have probably done more. Something a little bit more interesting. But like it was specific. I'm just gonna call them out because like. There was like a scene where she's talking to the mayor's son, and she's like, she sees the thing that her mom gave her because they're sirens, and he's like, how do you know all this? And she's like, because I know. And I'm like, wait, what? That's like the worst explanation ever for anything. Like, because you know. So stuff like that. Some of the dialogue's a little like, ugh, whatever. But overall, I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's just fun. It's I'm more interested in this, much darker Hogwarts, vibe that they give off. I hope next season that they go. I hope the mystery is a little bit more interesting, because I felt like the one downside of the mystery part of the show is that they show us the killer, right? And you're supposed to try to put together, well, who is it? But like, I don't know. Me personally, it wasn't really shocking that it was the normie kid. That wasn't a shock. Like after the 4th episode, I'm like, yeah, it's that kid. It's clearly that kid. But whatever. I hope next season they put a little bit. They have something a little bit more interesting than kind of what they presented. But a lot of the themes are there. Family, friendship, loyalty, respect. All those things are there. I appreciated it. I'm on the bandwagon as well. I'm here for it, man.
Cool. All right. Well, that's it for this one. If you liked what you heard, like, sub, share, do all that good stuff. You can find us on all the social media platforms, and you can find more of our episodes anywhere else where you listen to your other favorite podcasts. We'll catch you in the next one.
The Bandwagon Fan Podcast is hosted by Josh Jimenez, Alex Mogosa, and me, AJ Soy. Our show is produced by Kate Smith and edited by your boy, AJ.